Hello, guys. I wanted to talk with you about how the media has been covering this impeachment 2.0, whatever you want to call it, this latest impeachment, now that it's passed in the House, and that as of yesterday, the Senate has voted in favor of having the vote has voted in favor of having the trial and the vote for Trump in the Senate, the hearing and the vote. So the Democrats have a 51-49 majority in the Senate. So I think it was a 54-46 vote. I'm not entirely sure. I think so. Something like 2 or 3 Republicans defected from Trump, and I would be shocked if that doesn't come back to bite him in the ass. Because Trump and his voters are vindictive, and they aren't really going anywhere. If you've seen the polls, which I have, the behind Trump, polls that even show Trump is not a viable candidate for 2024 still show the top candidates as Mike Pence and Trump Jr., and then third place would be Nikki Haley. Trump Jr. and Pence are Trump. If Trump runs, then all those people voting for Pence or Trump Jr. are going to vote for Trump. So Trump hasn't gone anywhere as far as in the eyes of the Republicans, and of course many of them believe that the election was stolen from them, as ridiculous as that is. And there's no real evidence of that. But the point is that I think that this isn't going to go well for the Democrats. For one simple reason, and that's that it is not going to pass the Senate. It's all political theater. I've watched coverage of this on CNN. I've watched coverage of this on like ABC News. They go on and on about why this is constitutional, the hearing itself, why it's necessary, on and on about how wrong Trump is and why he needs to be impeached and why he can't be allowed to hold office ever again. And that's really what it seems to all come down to, is how can we prevent Trump from running again? But nobody seems to be talking about, I'm finding it hard to, no left-wing circles seem to care about the actual viability of this impeachment. Because only a year ago, we watched the House so confidently and affirmatively impeach Trump and pass that along to the Senate, only to have the Senate vote against it after they had made up their minds ahead of time. And the thing is that the impeachment in the Senate requires a 2/3 majority. Not a majority, a 2/3 majority. That's a difference between 51 votes and 67 votes. So, the Democrats have 51 members in the House. They have 51 members in the Senate, which means they have to win over 16 Republicans. And there's no conceivable way they're getting 16 Republican votes. Not a chance. There aren't 16 Republicans out there who are willing to. If Trump were to be impeached, they might as well. If they vote against Trump, they might as well join the Democrats, because their future as a Republican is over. I don't see how you vote against the president in what is essential in an impeachment that shouldn't be going on to begin with. And it's a farce that this man is already out of office, and that the Democrats are only doing this because they fear a second rise of Trump in 4 years, in 3 years. So, but nobody seems to be talking about the fact that it's just not going to happen. Because it just isn't going to get the ratings, it isn't going to get eyes on the screen like it should, and it calls into question the fact that this is just a political theater. Then they have to justify what's the point of all this. Is it really worth tearing up the country and dividing people that much more, boxing in Trump supporters, trying to label Trump and his supporters as this and that. It doesn't sound like healing, and it doesn't sound like healing and unification to me. But the media has talked about Trump's lawyers and how much clowns how they acted like clowns, that they didn't make any sense, that they rambled on. But fascinatingly enough, I watched the first minute of Sean Hannity last night, and within the first minute, he explains crystal clear the Democrats will not get the 2/3 majority. There's no conceivable way they will. Trump will absolutely not be impeached. It's that simple. Sean Hannity could figure it out and spell it out crystal clear in the first minute of his segment. Why is it that CNN and other left-wing news sources can't explain? They go on for hours, days, and might not explain it as crystal clear as as Sean Hannity could in the first minute. It's as simple as that. They need a 2/3 majority. That's 67 votes. That's 16 Republican votes plus every Democrat. That's never going to happen. That's never, ever going to happen. And even if it did, how does this play out? Even if it did, do they think this is going to? Do they think they're ever they're sticking their middle finger up to 75 million voters who voted for Trump? Do they really think that this is ever? Do they really think that this kind of behavior ends well? Do they really think that impeachment is the answer to Trumpism? Have they ever considered the fact that maybe dropping their political censorship war, their cancel culture war, actually believing in something, being anti-war, being pro-infrastructure, being anti-income inequality, believing in things like raising the minimum wage and breaking up some of these monopolies that are controlling our country, taking money out of politics. Do they think these kind of things can't win over Republicans? Because they can. Because I myself can have when I graduated high school, I considered myself a libertarian and somewhere on the right in general. And after watching enough independent left-wing news, I found myself aligned more with, I found myself seeing things more and more on an issue-by-issue basis, and finding myself aligning more and more with people with ideas on the left, such as like Medicare for all, or ending the wars, or a Great New Deal, things like that. That it just sounds like common sense to me, but it's just it's embarrassing, in my opinion. They should be ashamed, these news sources, for not coming out and making it clear how the futility of this effort, that the Republicans will hear them out, and when their minds were made up a month ago, and there's no conceivable way Trump gets impeached. And any news source who covers the impeachment and doesn't make it clear right up front that Trump will not be impeached, that it's almost impossible, that there's no conceivable way that they get 67 votes, they're lying to you, and they're just trying to keep you glued to a screen, regardless of the facts. So, all right, guys, thank you.